Welcome to the first devlog for my game Pitball, which is a mix of a 2D platformer and sports game. My name is Mike, I'm a web designer and developer by trade, and last year I set about trying to build my first ever video game. I released the demo in December, got some feedback, and now it's back to work on the next phase of the game. I'll be making devlogs throughout the whole process, so stick around for the journey. In this video, we're going to take the first level of Pitball, which I learned was too difficult and took an average player 300 seconds to complete, yikes, and completely redesign it so that the same players can now complete the level in a lot less time and with a lot less frustration. Let's see how it goes. This is the original first level of the game. After releasing the demo, I was able to get some feedback from the few people who did play it, and the main feedback was the game was too hard and people were getting stuck on the first level. Some of the common problems I saw were it was easy for the ball to bounce off the wall and go flying behind you. You essentially had to master the spin move to get up the blocks, and the last shot to the goal was pretty difficult and players got mad when it inevitably sent the ball back down to the beginning. Of course, it's okay for a game to have a steep learning curve, but not on the first level. Games need to give the players a sense of achievement early on to keep them playing. If they get frustrated and stuck at the beginning, especially with a free game on the internet, then they're just going to click off. So I had to completely redesign my first level to make it a better introduction for players. And I was going to accomplish this by adding in one big mechanic change to my game. We're going to scrap the static view of the old levels and make them bigger by bringing in a moving camera that follows the player. Let's get into it. The static view did make things simpler on a technical level, but it was also an intentional design, as I liked the simplicity of spawning into a level and having the end target and a clear path to it right there in sight. Similar to some mobile games like Angry Birds, or even the early levels of Celeste, where you just drop in and you instantly know what your challenge is. But I knew it was also holding me back and was making it more difficult for players. When they're just learning their controls, they need to be able to kick the ball around without any consequence. And right now, there is very little room for them, literally, to make mistakes. So it's time to be like other great platformers and add in a camera that follows the player as they move through the level. With only a few lines of code, we had a camera in some dimensions and we told it to follow the player object. The thing you have to consider though when you have a moving camera is how it's positioned to the character. The default is for the character to be centered in the middle of the scene, but then that only gave the player half the space to see and aim their kick on either side. They need to be able to see the space in front of them to be able to fire off those long-range shots. So my solution was to move the camera origin based on the direction the player was facing. So the camera shifted when you tapped the button to turn left or right, and then you had space to see and shoot what was in front of you. So with this set up, let's now look at what the new version of the first level looks like, and how this could be used to create some more difficult levels in the future. So the player drops into the pits. They need to run, jump, find the goal, and put the ball in the back of the net. Okay, that was quick, but that was the whole point. You can see we've kept it simple here. And a big part of that is how there's now only one direction the player needs to run and kick the ball, whereas before they had to stop and turn multiple times. Now, if they do want to get all the floating stamps, then they do need to spin around, but first-time players don't need to worry about that. Then the obstacles also aren't that difficult because everything is so wide open. The player can just run forward and almost no matter when they shoot or how much power they apply, they're going to get the ball up on the next platform. Then on the platform, before there was a chance of it bouncing off the next wall, but now there's just room for the ball to roll and the player can catch up to it. The next shot is slightly harder, but it's still pretty easy to make with the net lying flat on the ground, and there's no real danger or punishment for missed kicks as well, unlike with the version before. So overall, this is much more forgiving to players, which is what you want as an introduction to your game. So the big question is, how did players get on? The players who were able to beat the previous first level needed around 300 seconds to do it, and now this version, it took them just under 30 seconds. So that was a great improvement. And then the players who found the old version really difficult and weren't able to complete the level were actually now able to beat this one after around 180 seconds of keyboard bashing, which I'll still count as an improvement. And then for myself, a good run before was 20 seconds and now it was under 10. So this may look like a simple level, but it's much more rewarding for the player and exactly what a first level should be. And then of course, with this new setup, we can do bigger and more interesting challenges in the levels to come. Maybe something like this, with a big open space and some moving platforms that the characters got to shoot the ball through and then hop across on. And make sure not to fall into the pit below, or else the level will restart. So already, with this new setup, we have more options that we can explore. So, that's the process of how I redesigned my game's first level and got some more positive feedback about it from players. So what can we take away from all of this? Well, it's simple. We have to show our games to players earlier. I know it's scary as an indie dev to put our games out there, especially before we think they're ready, but we're going to learn so much more when we see and hear about how players are actually interacting with our games. So overcome that fear and show it to someone. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean a lot. This is a new channel that I'm starting up, and I'm going to be making a lot more devlogs and other related content. But thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more of the journey, and I'll see you in the next video.